Welcome back to another episode of a very basic space program. Last episode we set off on our way to Jupiter. That's going to take a while to get there, and well, one of our craft is not going to make it, I can tell you that now. This episode we're going to complete some contracts closer to home, and we might look at building a bigger rocket, a much bigger rocket. Please join me. Right, so last episode I accepted two contracts. We got first Sun-synchronous orbit, and we also got second generation navigation satellite. The Sun-synchronous orbit, that was all about us basically completing one of the initial contracts. We've done the Molniya, we've done all the others. This is one of those first contracts that comes up, Sun-synchronous orbit. So we're going to complete that because we can. And then we've got this second generation nav satellite that I want to complete. And it does not require much on board, I don't believe. Yeah, it requires 115 units of comms payload. We're going to do that one first, I think, because that opens up some options, and then we're going to try and do this second one. We have two craft ready. We have the Sat-1s. We've got Sat-1, which I've actually changed to have 115 ComSat payload in it, so that's ready to do the second generation nav satellite. And we've also got Sat-1, and this is actually empty. It's got a capacity of 250 units. It's currently empty. The idea being we could fill it with whatever we want, but we're going to use that for the Sun-synchronous because I don't believe that requires anything. So that's going to be just an empty craft. It's going to have more Delta V because of it. So this is ready to launch. Let's get it going. Right, so here we are on the launch pad, and we're going to have a look at what we require here. We need to put our satellite into quite a specific orbit there. We've got to have an apoapsis below 925 kilometers and our periapsis above 875. So we're basically looking at about a 900 kilometer circular orbit. It's trying to force us to be circular. Our inclination needs to be between 68 and 72 degrees, and we've got to hold that. So we don't need anything. We've got the payload on board already. We're going to use one of our, I believe this is a Javelin 3M, I think, which is the latest Javelin, the most up-to-date Javelin. I do wonder whether we should actually be operating this and building another one. I don't know how many small satellites we're actually going to do, because we could really operate this. We could update engines, maybe operate this top engine there and put in something that's restartable potentially. That's the one thing this didn't have. So that's a potential. We could just take the upper stage off something like the Javelin 4. We could tap that onto there potentially. It would give it a bit of an odd shape, I think, and then put some more boosters on the bottom, and we could play around with that potentially, see what we do there. But at the moment we're not really going to look at that. So we are ready to launch. The big thing I've got is I want to get into an inclination of 68 degrees. We're currently an inclination of 28, so I'm going to launch it pretty much. We're going to go up quite sharply up. I'm actually tempted to go completely polar, and then change from there. That might be the best way. I'm not sure. People will probably disagree. We're going to go up at about what a 75 degree inclination launch. We're going to go up at 75 degrees. So we're basically going to launch up in this direction instead of that way or polar, which would be sort of that way or that way. That's what we're going to do, and that should increase our inclination. Then we'll bring our inclination, our marker, down until we're actually on our target inclination, and hopefully we should be okay. We just want to get this craft into orbit because the Delta V on the satellite is enough to refine anything that we're probably going to have as a problem. So let's get this thing going. Engines are started. Everything is good. Off we go. We've got those two solids at the start there that it's been a while since we've launched one of these, actually, or it feels like it's been a while since we've launched a Javelin 3. I think, yeah, we tested one of the Discovery. Yeah, we just tested Discovery 3, I think it was, on a Javelin. But other than that, I don't think we've actually had many Javelins recently, Javelin 3s recently, so that's quite interesting. You can see our inclination is already going up, which is brilliant. And what I'll actually be doing is when we get to the orbital, we'll be looking at where the prograde marker is, and we'll just basically match that once we get to the inclination that we want. So it should be quite easy. Our solids have gone, so we'll get rid of those. Look at them decoupled. They didn't decoupled reasonably okay, actually. is quite a high inclination that we're actually aiming for with this. So it'll be interesting to see. I suppose we should just position ourselves like that. You get a different view of the cape and everything from here. Right, so what have we got coming up? These things are popping and changing. I don't want that. So we're going to focus on this one. We want to get ourselves down to about 45 degrees right now would be good. Inclination's going up nicely. We may want to change our sort of angle of our heading a little bit, because we are going up a lot. But yeah, I think we'll keep it where we are at the moment. It'll be interesting to see what comes about this. We're going okay. Now, obviously, we have 2 engines on this first stage, but one of them is just that little vernier. And I think we've actually got the vernier put on at 90 degrees to where it should be, if I'm honest. So I think if we were reviewing this craft a little bit, that's one change I would make. I think we're not getting the best out of our vernier engine. It's not giving us the roll control quite how I would like it to, which I think we may have seen in the past with a couple of launches, but we will see. So just turn this over. I've actually let it go really quite far up before we started turning. Pull this all the way over to what, 25? I'm trying to think. That upper stage is a 6-minute burn, so it's quite a long burn, and we don't mind gaining too much altitude because our final target is so high up. We can actually afford to go quite a bit up. In fact, we could just sit it on 30 and just keep it running at about 30 degrees for now. It's probably the best choice. We're going to be out of the atmosphere soon, and our inclination is now approaching what I want. So we're going to pop it into orbital, and I'm going to change my heading a bit. We're just going to pull the heading across to match my target a bit, and we're going to dip this down. I'm going to actually put us right on the heading marker. There we go. And that should balance out our inclination a little bit. There we go. That's better. Right, this engine is going to give up any second now. There we go. Decouple the fairings. Fire that next engine. Should have got the fairings away a little bit earlier, but that's not a big issue. Of course, we don't need to activate the RCS on this stage, unlike the Javelin 4, because these things are just basically, I think they're off-gassing from the turbo pump or something like that. Whereas we actually have sort of RCS control in the upper stage of the Javelin 4. So this is a little bit of a different flight to deal with that. And I'm actually going to speed this up now, because we are going to take a while to get going, I think. 3 minutes on there, turn it there. We can actually pull this down to about 15 degrees. Our inclination is going up ever so slightly. So we do pop this down this way a bit. Will that help? Possibly, possibly not. Our inclination is still rising. Go the other way would be helpful, actually. That would probably fix it. There we go. That should, one more jot, pull it. Yeah, so that's going to sit it going down. So we're just going to sit it there, 24. That's fine. That is going to do us nicely for now. We've got about 2.5 minutes to go, so we can actually speed this thing up a bit more. We can actually drop this down. I'm actually going to put this down to 0. We're going to sit it at 0 because with this time and this time here, I'm going to predict that we're going to be in orbit reasonably easily. We have more than enough delta V, I think, to get us up there. 7, yeah, we've got more than enough. So this will actually burn out quicker than needed. So I don't mind about this timer going down too quickly, because we are actually going to have a good chunk of time there. Because at the moment, even though we're actually on level with the horizon, we're actually gaining some altitude in our apoapsis, because technically our apoapsis is above there. Anyway, if you're burning parallel to the horizon and you're not yet your apoapsis, you're actually going to increase your apoapsis height. That's the basically the rule. You can see there we're actually now increasing our time to apoapsis because of how far ahead we are. So we're just going to put our nose down a bit and do that and cut it. There we go. Now we've actually gone a bit too much there, which is annoying. So we're going to do that, and you know what? I'm actually going to decouple. We're just going to decouple straight away, and then we've got to turn our avionics on. So where's the avionics? There we go. Avionics control is on. So let's have a look. We don't want that one. God, I thought we'd actually failed there. Let's have a look. We've got the inclination we want. Now we've just got to do that. So how are we going to do this? We could spin round, go retrograde, turn on the RCS. There we go. RCS is on. It's slowly going to turn us around, and we're going to see what happens here. Can we speed this up? We could speed this up just a smidgen. There we go. We're going to do this fast. We're going to do this in time warp. It's going to be a speedy one. There we go. A bit more. There we go. Get me in retrograde there. All we want to do is bring down our apoapsis right now. And we're going to fire a little bit of thrusters there. Okay. And then we're going to fire the engine, bring us down to, what do we need to be? Below 925. So we're going to bring it down until we're at about 925, which is going to, well, we take about to about 900, and then we'll kill it at that. 900 is about now. There we go. Right, so that's done. We don't want that one. Get away. So we've still got to get the periaps up. So next step, we're going to come back to our apoapsis. We're going to time warp to apoapsis, and I'm going to hope that we've got signal, which we do because, of course, we're actually picking up signal from multiple stations there. Actually, that's quite good. And we want to be prograde at this point. And we're doing this really roughly, actually. This is not a pretty maneuver set. The good thing is, because we were facing retrograde before, we are now we're now pretty much facing prograde at the apoapsis because we were opposite sides of the planet, and we've just held that position. So there we go. We're going to turn the engine on to full, and we're just going to bring this up to over 975, and that should hopefully complete this second generation navigation contract, which will open up a whole slew of one more contract. It will open up a contract for a polar constellation, which, as you'll see here, we're actually jumping signal not from our communication system but from Earth right now, which is suggesting our communication system may not be as good as it could be. The question will be, what do we do with our polar system that's supposed to be for navigation that I'm going to use for communication? Because it's only going to be useful for some craft some of the time. So yeah, we'll have to design something reasonably interesting for that, I think. Possibly some longer range communications would be useful. Something for system, flying around sort of moon type things, but then we do have sort of communications on surface, so I don't know. We'll keep jumping to that sun-synchronous one. So 875 is as much as we need to go to. Let's have a look how we're doing. Oh, actually, you know what? We could put more thrust. Does that actually have variable thrust? I don't know if it does. Does it change its sort of speed? No, I think it's either on or off that engine, so that's good. Right, we're coming up. Come on, hurry up. We should have really sped this up. I should have done a speedy up bit on it. When you do time warp and come back out, it doesn't return to the same physical time warp, which is something I forgot. Oh, I don't really like the way the sun does that. Anyway, almost there now. I could speed it up now, but we're getting to the very end, and that's a bit silly. We'll speed it up when we're doing our 2 minutes of stable pointlessness. Right, here we go. Coming up. Now, the problem we will have is if the apoapsis goes up too high. There we go. Done that. Killed it. Sorted. Everything is good. And I think we actually lose control of this craft after 2 minutes. I will have to see. No, we keep it. We keep the craft okay because it's that there. What we'll do is we'll put it on normal. Let's put it on normal, will we? Yeah, we'll put it on normal. So that's that craft done. Right, back to base. Let's see what contract that's opened up. And also, we'll start preparing for our first Sun-synchronous orbit. Right, so with that mission done, let's pull it up. We've got an extra 24,000 funds. That's not a lot, but it's good for that craft. I think it only costs us maybe 7 or 8 to actually launch it, maybe 10 to launch it now. That's good. We've prepared our next satellite. Again, another Sat-1 variant. This time it's basically empty. It's got the capacity for 250, but it's not. We're going to put it onto the launch pad. Let's have a look. Have we got any extra... Hi, Gene. How are you doing? Have we got any contracts that have come up from the last one? Let's have a look. We have... second generation navigation satellite. Anything else? We were supposed to get another set of contracts. Operational navigation system. Okay. So, our development of Doppler satellite navigation equipment is now complete, and we are ready to launch the operational 5 satellite constellation. So, it requires that you send 5 satellites up. They are in a polar orbit. Is that right? Yeah. Inclination above 88 degrees. I suppose you could put them in. Now that's interesting. Could you go retrograde orbit and it would still count? That is an interesting one, because we could then use it. I mean, it's cheeky. They want you to put it in a polar orbit, I think. Yeah, it wants to be in a polar orbit, but it says inclination above 88 degrees. So could we launch one of those retrograde? I mean, could we actually launch craft retrograde? As long as we kept it a sort of, what would it be? Say what, 179 degrees would be backwards. it would be going backwards, but it would be sort of semi-equatorially. Would that count? That'd be interesting. Comments down below, do you think that would work? Normally, this would say inclination above something and below something else. Is that going to be the case? The interesting thing is, they don't have to communicate with each other. They just need to have, and you know that, they just need to be 5 of them. So they can just be 5. We could send up together, we could send them individually. I know you can complete this mission by basically launching Polar and just putting 5 craft with 120 units onto 1 craft, decoupling them and have nothing on them. They just basically float there. And they don't need to do anything. They just need basically a probe core and that mass, and then they just run for a bit. And do they have to be stable for a set amount of time? I don't even think it says that, and you can get that. How long have we got to do this? This is we've got 3 years. We're going to take that because I think it'll be an interesting one for us to try and do. We should be able to do it reasonably easily, actually. Nice high altitude, so I think we're going to take that. That gives us a target. Thanks, Gene. And we've got our next launch to get on with. So what else are we thinking? Well, tech wise, we are waiting for early docking to do, and then we've got life support. Once those 2 are done, we're then, I think, looking at potentially lunar rated heat shields for some Venus landers would be nice. But I'm really looking at this stuff here. We really want to build something bigger. We want a nice big launch vehicle before we can even look at, you know, lunar rated heat shields. This docking procedures opens up docking for us, but it also opens up the ability to build some bipropellant fueled sort of probes, and then we can start getting orbiters and things. I think I'm holding off trying to push for orbiters until we've got the right fuel sorts. And they're about twice as efficient, these fuels, as the stuff we're using at the moment. So it becomes a lot easier to do that. That would be my suggestion for you as well. So we have 1 more launch. It is going to be this one here to complete the Sun-synchronous orbit. I think this is going to be the challenging one. Let's see how it goes. Here we are on the launch pad yet again with another of the Javelin craft. How exciting is this? It's another Javelin launch. We'll try and do this one quicker. This one's interesting. This is basically a retrograde orbit. It's not a hugely retrograde orbit, but we've got to be between 95 and 99. So we're actually looking at an inclination to start with of at least, I would say, minus 9. I would normally go for -5 to give me a polar orbit and then sort it out later. I'm actually going to go minus 10, get it out of the way a little bit. You could take off and head, you know, minus 90 and then straighten it up a bit, but we'll go minus 10 because what we're actually trying to do, if I get into this angle here, if we just went 0, we go straight north from here, okay? But we've already got the speed of rotating around the planet, which is moving that way. So we'd actually be on about a final inclination of about 80, 88, 89, something like that. It's not a, you can work it out actually. Let's have a look. It would be about 88, something like that. So even to go to 90, you have to launch actually heading slightly behind where you want to be. We are actually going to be trying to go for a 95 degree orbit or inclination, which means we're orbiting past where we launched, about here. So we actually want to launch back here somewhere to get to that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go minus 10, which is more than the 99 degrees. If we were basically, if we launched from the pole and did this, we'd end up in an orbit that was a 100 degree orbit. But we're not launching from the pole, we're launching from the equator. Well, we actually wouldn't. If we were launching from the pole, we'd end up in a 90 degree orbit. Anyway, let's not get into that. Right, let us have a look. We seem to be ready. Everything's good. Get the engines going. Let's sort this out. In fact, you know what? I wonder if we can. Yeah, we'll do it when we launch. So engines are on, and fire. And there we go again. I'm going to rotate around this way so we can see. Oh, wonderful! Look, we've got lovely structures going up there like that. All right. Are we ready to start turning over? We're going to start turning over at there. I'm going to turn to 10 degrees and we're going to watch it. So we're watching our inclination here. Our inclination is going to start going up because we've started turning over. The more we turn over, the more our inclination will hopefully go up. We're trying to get it up as high as possible. So we're just going to keep going. Our solids are basically gone. One of them is completely dead. So we're going to get rid of that. I don't know. It was actually showing there was a fault with it, but interestingly, and we've introduced a roll. Now this is what I was talking about in the last launch, which is this little, where is it? This little engine in here, our gimbal, you see there? it's trying to control, oh actually it's doing it, I think it might be in the right way around here. It is trying to control our roll a little bit, but it is struggling. It is struggling a lot. So we have to be aware of that. We've induced a roll somewhere, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. I wonder whether it's the decoupling. I've seen it a couple of times, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know whether something gets stuck, something gets a kick. The fact that the rocket continues to roll like this is a little bit concerning. I do think that we actually sort it out when we get higher. We get into the second stage generally, which is quite interesting. But we'll see. So we're actually moving over quite nicely now. 50 degrees. I want to get down to 50 degrees now. It's going to be hopefully a nicer launch apart from the slight roll. So we're still rolling. That's interesting. I suppose we're not controlling our roll. Let's see if we can control our roll a little bit. Bring it back under control. No, it is not doing it. So that vernier is not enjoying controlling roll at all right now. We'll pull this down. We've gone past the mark I wanted to go to. Pull this down to, oh, I don't know, 30 degrees. Is probably okay for us. We're going to go for a slightly higher orbit this time, I think. Oh no, actually no, we don't. We're actually aiming for 300 as basically our periaps, and the lower we can get our periaps, probably the better actually for this craft, because we want to have a higher eccentricity. So the less height we have in the periaps, the less sort of it's increased by the eccentricity requirement. So we'll see what we can do here actually. And of course, if we want eccentricity, you can see that here. We can actually reduce the eccentricity as we're going. We may end up actually using the final stage to do a bit of eccentricity control, shall we say. Right, we're getting up there, and I think I'm about ready to take out the fairings, which is going to be just before staging. So there we go. Fairings are gone. And I think we're now ready for the next step, which is stage that. There we go. That's a little bit of a better separation than we had last time. And we're just going to run this thing now. What we could do is put a little bit of angle on it, just about 10. We know that we're actually getting a good lag time there. So let's speed this up a bit. Hello, give me some. There we go. Get a physical time warp going on. Get going. And we've got, it does annoy me that once you close these, they pop up when you change. So we've now gone into space, and so this has popped up and gone, oh yeah, you can do crew duration in space. Yeah, I don't want it. I don't need it, and I don't need this either. I would love it if you could actually lock them closed when you're doing certain missions, because they just keep popping open when you change certain characteristics that impact them, and I don't really care. So when our speed if our speed was to go greater than 9,000, it would pop open, even though we don't have any crew on board and we're not trying to do that mission. So that can become a little bit annoying. Right, so I think the aim for this is we're actually getting there for our inclination, so we can actually start to probably just bring it around to near where we want. In fact, you know what, no. We're going to keep going until it's over 95. That's what I want. Let's get it over 95 first, then we'll worry about everything else. We're going to keep on at that angle. I'm actually concerned it's going to make over 95. We've got enough time burning left to do that, and we can also use this and just angle it if need be. So that's going to do that. Once it gets over 95, we'll bring it back just a little bit, so you can see we want to aim for the center of our prograde marker on the board. So we're going to bring that back a little bit, just to there. Just to be safe and sensible. You can see it's slowed down its inclination. We don't actually have to be too accurate with that, which is really nice. It's not too sort of crazy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at our eccentricity. Our eccentricity is going to basically go down to pretty much 0, and then it's going to come back again. And that's important to us. You can see it's going down to 0, and then it's going to start going up again. And we're going to wait until it's, what is it, 0. We've actually gone too far. What am I doing? We have actually gone too far there. So what we could do is decouple right now. We could activate all of this. Where's my aim? Where's my activate? Because we've actually gone and we've overburned. I missed the point. And there we go. It's done that again just to annoy me. I've missed the 0 there. So this is actually pretty much a circular orbit. Orbit, retrograde, get our RCS on. And we really want to turn this thing around as quickly as possible, because we do not want our apoapsis to be that high. That's going to be a problem for us. So we're actually going to physical time warp this, and I'm going to give myself a little push that way. There we go. Now I'm hoping we've got 1,000 meters per second. This should be pretty easy to fix, I think. So there we go. We're going to swing it around and fire the engine. There we go. We're going to bring this down until our eccentricity is a bit more sensible. Now remember, we still have to bring this up, so we don't want to mess around too much with it just now. What I could do is we could go to that higher altitude and bring this in, and we could bring this up and then do it. You know what? Yeah, you know what? We're going to do that. I'm actually going to change my mind. Let's go to our higher altitude orbit, and we're going to bring our periaps up. We're going to bring our periaps up, and then we're going to do that maneuver at periaps, and it saves us doing potentially multiple changes. Right. So we're going to reposition ourselves. Thank you very much. We're going to bring our periaps up to just over, we're going to bring it to about, I don't know, 325 kilometers up. It's probably what I'm going to aim for. So let's fire that engine. 325 kilometers would be perfect. Come on, bring it up there. It's not going to take us very long, I do not believe. I would go into time warp, but it's not going to take that long. So let's see, it should give us a little, there we go, our periaps is above now, so that's fine. And then we're going to cross that out. And then we're going to come back and we're going to head to the periaps, or like so. Our inclination is perfect, wonderful. We'll go to retrograde. So now, because we did that at the apoapsis, our periapsis, we're actually going to be facing the right way. We're going to fire that engine. We're also going to do a physical time warp, and we're trying to bring this, where are we? There we are. There's the eccentricity just there. I want to bring that down to 0.02. So we've got quite a way to go. We're basically bringing it down to almost a circular orbit. I misinterpreted it and thought it was not going to be circular, which is terrible because it should be pretty circular. This isn't a perfect sun-synchronous orbit. It's just a representation of it, but in reality, it should be synced so that you basically follow the movement of the sun, so that you're always above. Basically, you're always in line with the sun at the same time each day and stuff like that. Instead of the sun falling, losing its track on you. The idea is that you keep up with the sun as the Earth moves past it. If you want a better example or explanation of it, please ask down below, and I'll actually talk about it in another episode where I can actually explain it. But for example, if we're in a 90-degree orbit, we would spend part of our time, half the year, we would have one side of our craft facing the sun, the other side, and so forth. And as the Earth basically went around the sun, we'd have that change. So what we're trying to do is actually have our orbit drift. There we go. I think we've gone too far now, haven't we? Yeah. Oh dear. This is just, you know what? This is just an example of how not to do this while you're talking. I've looked at that number and not that number. So we actually needed to be above that and below that, so we could have actually stopped this a while ago. And our periaps is drifting down a little bit there. That's interesting. I did not expect that to happen so significantly. Interesting. Right, we're firing that. So our periaps is going to go up now, and then this is going to go up, and there we go, we're sorted. Yeah, so the idea of sun-synchronous is, if I actually show you, let's position us on the normal. We're actually, we're over the Earth with the sun there. The idea is, as we come around on our orbit, as time goes on, as the year moves, this point in the orbit will basically stay facing this way. The idea is that as time goes on, we'll actually end up with this being sort of to the side of the planet's orbit and things like that. And the idea is that you're always in the same point at the same time in your orbit in relative to the sun is the idea, I believe. It has a lot of purposes. I think it's also something to do with point above the Earth at a certain time, but there's lots of different things to it. It's hard to represent accurately on Kerbal, shall we say. Right, so I think that is us done. We are sorted. Wonderful. That's not brilliant putting it in the normal like that actually, but we'll leave it like that. It's fine. This craft, what we will do with it is we will actually set it so that it is not going to tell us about battery, because it's not doing anything for us. In fact, we could just get rid of it. We could just let this mission finish. So we'll do a speedy up, get that gone, done, all done. Sun-synchronous is done. We've got ourselves a contract complete. 56,000. That was actually easier than the other one in many ways, but it does take quite a lot of delta V because of the fact that your launch vehicle has to fire it backwards. So if you have a launch vehicle that's only just able to get you into orbit, this mission can be quite difficult. The fact it doesn't have a payload requirement, the fact that we got a satellite with such sort of light, we messed up, and even then we've only used half our delta V, so not a problem. Let's get ourselves back to the Space Center. So with that, we now have over 1 million funds again. Let's see, is there anything, hygiene again. Is there anything interesting we really want that we've now gained? I don't think we gain any additional satellite contracts from the last one. We don't. It basically just ends a research line for us. So now we've basically got communications. First weather satellite we haven't done. We might want to do that. I'm not sure. Is there anything down the weather satellite tree? Is there a separate weather satellite contract tree? Weather satellite contracts. Early weather satellites, first weather satellites, early weather satellites, second generation geostationary weather satellites, and sun-synchronous weather satellites. Okay, so that's just a range of standard things, and you're going to be putting them in at certain things. You get 2 angles. Okay, geostationary, that's nothing new. So I don't think we're really in the mood to push that. There's not a constellation to do or anything like that. Maybe if we needed funds, we would do it, but we'll just leave that at the moment. And I think that's pretty much the satellites. Communication satellites, we are at a point with where, and if I show you this, we could progress with communication satellites. Where are we? Communication satellites, they are often hiding from me because they go somewhere else, don't they? Early satellite contracts, navigation, weather, surface. I believe they're somewhere. Advanced satellite contracts, no, that's Molniya. Communications, geostationary communications network. Early communications network, gotta have that. Geostationary commercial. All right, so this one, geostationary communications network, is one we could go for if we complete the geostationary commercial communications satellite, which would be a nice one to have. Geostationary commercial communications, must have completed first geostationary, got that. Must have completed commercial communications early contract at least 2 times. So we need to be able to accept that, do that twice, get that. Once that's done, then we can go geostationary communications network. That's quite a nice thing. So if you think we should push on to try and get geostationary communications, we do have reasonable tech now, so we could put something out there for an extended amount of time. 4 satellites would be quite nice, I think. Must have completed contract early communication network. We've done that. That would be quite nice. I think it would be potentially the final communications network we need before we go really high buffer speed, if we get that far. And by high buffer speed, I mean some of the science that we actually do later on, you need to have really high throughput on your communication system just to get the data down. And we're talking gigabytes of data per second sort of thing. That's a long way to go to get to that. And we would probably use a different band of antenna. So we could delay that until we have those, or we could do it now and then just augment it later is another possibility. And I think that's probably it. So let's have a look. I have said I'm going to try and cut these episodes shorter. I'm not going to cut this just yet because I want to go forward in time. We have some missions to do. We've got the navigation one, but actually what I want to do is, and because we're not speed running this, I want to get this out of the way. Let's just get it done, get it researched. Let's warp to it. Yeah, let's warp to it. Go on. There we go. Early docking is done. Right. So now we need to do building of stuff. We've got this discovery ready for probably that Mars flyby. I think that will be going to, because Mars has only had 1 discovery craft go past it. So let's have a look. Has this opened up any more contracts available to us? We should now have. Have we got docking? First crew lunar. We don't have docking that I can see, but that might take a while to update. We will. Oh, there we are. First docking. So that's going to take a year. I'm not going to take that just yet, but you get an advance of about 1 million, which I think pays for your docking ports. And then completion, you don't get as much. You lose a lot for not completing it. So that's something we need to do in the next short while, shall we say. We're getting all these contracts are updating because we went forward by about a month and a half. What we have now got though is, and let's go in the VAB and have a look at it. All right, so the big thing that we have got is we've got new bipropellants, and I just wanted to, I've brought up this Sat-1 because this is a nice simple satellite just to try and show you something about this. So Sat-1 that we've been launching, it has a vacuum delta V of 941. Why am I so obsessed with changing our fuels for these, our hypergolic type fuels? Well, remember that 941. First of all, let's remove the tank. We'll get rid of that. We're going to change this engine over, and we're going to choose, let's have a look, what should we have? MMH NTO or UDMH NTO. Ooh, it's choice. So we got basically the American version or the Russian version. I'm going to go for the American version, I think, or we could go Aerosine 50. You know what? Let's go caveat B. Ooh, that's a possibility. Let's go Aerosine 50. Caveat B, I think, is actually the better one because I think it is actually very, very good density wise. I suppose if we're doing it, we might as well go all of it. Let's go caveat B. Yeah, so that's actually a mono thing, I believe. Anyway, let's have a look. So we're gonna basically, that's now changed. We need to fill this up. There we go, and you can see we've gone from 900 to 2000. Now, the other thing to check here is, let's actually have a look at the mass of the craft. What impact is that? So that the craft is 600.652 tons. Let's change that back to what we actually had in it originally. So 638. So we've gained a little bit of mass there. Okay, 652. You know what we're going to try? We're going to try and just see, and this is costing me funds, but let's try Aerosine 50 NTO. Let's try that one. I know it's not, I'm wasting money now, but that's, give it a go. Remove the tanks and fill it up. We've got a bit less there because it is a bi-propellant, but you can see it's basically twice. But let's have a look at the mass there. 0.57. Remove all tanks, put the HTP back in. It's a lot less. It's a lot less mass. So, we're going from pretty much 950, 980 delta V. We're now moving to, move the tanks again. We're moving to, twice the amount of delta V, and we're actually lighter. This is why this change to, bipropellants and hypergolics and even something like caveat B or whatever, these higher engine bipropellants or hypergolics is really important to us, because taking HTP all the way out there to do some sort of burns, we were having to take a lot of it. Now we can take half as much, in effect, mass and get twice, the same amount of bang for our buck. So it starts to become much better for us. So this is going to allow us to put, craft around Mars, around Venus, and then do something with them. It's also going to give us the ability, I think, to put craft around pretty much the gas giants as well. We should be able to get into orbit quite nicely with these. If we had loaded up our Discovery 10 with this, it could not only have made it to Jupiter, it could have orbited Jupiter. Even Discovery 9, where it missed Jupiter, it would have had enough delta V to get to Jupiter, and it would then also, I think, have had enough to get into orbit of Jupiter. So this changes the field a lot. So I think in the next episode, we're going to look at building some craft that can use this new technology. We're going to also look at how much it's going to weigh, how much we're going to have to spend or send to get ourselves out to these big planets, or to get ourselves into orbit around Mars and things. And do we need a bigger rocket for it? We're also going to have to look at, we're going to have to build a bigger rocket for our crewed missions as well. And of course, our crewed craft uses HTP, so we're going to swap that over to some of these bipropellants as well. That's going to make that more efficient. Everything's going to get better. So next episode, we've got a lot happening. Comment down below, what should we be doing first? Should we be preparing our probes, sending them out, or should we really focus back in onto the crewed program, get that stuff ready? We do have an upgrade coming very soon to the life support systems, which will mean that we start to get really useful. And when we get fuel cells, things really open up, particularly for that Gemini type capsule. So from me, until next time, have a great one.